to Wheels of Interest, and now we are getting the Jimny serviced. It's been stood for quite a few months, as you know. It's not really been on the road for over a year. We don't know where the service situation lies in terms of oil changes, belt changes, filter changes and such like, so we're going to go through the whole thing. The only thing we're not going to change today is the antifreeze, because that looks pretty clean and tidy, so we're quite happy with that. But we're going to change the plugs, alternator belt, power steering belt, drain the oil in the engine, change the air filter, change the oil filter, and hopefully, if we get enough time, to drain the axles and the gearbox and transfer box as well. So without further ado, let's have a go. Okay, so the first thing we've done is warm the engine up. That makes sure that the oil flows better. It also makes sure that any sediment that might be laying in the oil pan gets picked up and into the oil in suspension, and then when you drain the oil, it all drains out with the oil. If you just drain cold oil, then some of the muck and dirt will just sit in the bottom of the sump and it will be there forever. So it's always good practice just to warm everything up, get it circulated for 5 or 10 minutes. Everything's actually in suspension in the oil and it all comes out when you drain it out. And the sump plug is on the right at the bottom of the oil pan under the engine at the back. Very simple to get at. We haven't even jacked it up because of being four-wheel drive, we can obviously climb straight under it, so makes it very easy. I think it's about 4 or 5 litres of oil, so not a huge amount, but you need to be ready to catch what you've got. We've got a fairly big pan here to take all of that, so yeah, it looks like it's just draining the last little dribbles. And while it's doing that, we're going to change the alternator belts and the power steering belts. So this car's got power steering but no air conditioning, so the belt for the power steering is just a short one because it only drives a power steering pump. If you have air conditioning on your car, you need a longer belt. So it's a fairly simple system. You have to change, or you have to take off the power steering belt to get to the alternator belt, and seeing as we're doing the alternator belt, we may just as well do the power steering belt at the same time. And on the power steering, you've got the front crank pulley, goes up to the power steering pulley, and then in the middle you've got an idler, which is your adjustment and also your release to get the belt off. So you can see on the right hand side we've got power steering pulley, then down here we've got the idler, and then right down in the bottom of the engine there, right at the bottom, we've got the front crank pulley. And if you can see there on the end of the pointer, I've got a hexagon bolt, and then recessed inside the pulley I've got a hexagon nut. We have to undo both of those. The bolt is the pivot and the hexagon nut is a stud that's in a slot. Loosen off both of them, and then we put in an Allen key in the middle of the pulley, and then that will turn the idler pulley on the slot to allow the adjustment and to also release it to get the belt off. So we'll do that shortly. Well, it's a bit tight, isn't it? So we're just getting in there with the 13mm. It is 13mm, is it, or is it 12mm? So it's 12mm hexagon on the idler pulley on the power steering. Just undo the bolt, that releases the pivot a little bit, and then now we've got to get onto the nut, which is on the slot, gives you the adjustment. Now, excuse the arm, it obscures the view a little bit, but it is pretty tight in there, as you can probably tell. Of course, the trouble with it being so tight, you can only use small tools, so we've got a 3/8 ratchet on this, which means you don't have the length on the handle like you do on a 1/2 inch, because you don't want to be putting too much power through a 3/8 ratchet, because the ratchet teeth won't take it. So the tool is the size according to the drive, and if the bolts are tight, you haven't got enough leverage on the tool. So, and if they've not been off for a while, same problem. So the hexagon hole in the middle of the idler is 10mm AF, so it's quite a big hexagon. And because the radiator and the fan are in the way, you can't see down the end of it, so you can't see where the hexagon is. So it's a bit of a case of feeling your way through. Okay, so the idler is loose, so it's a case of lifting the idler up, and just taking the belt off the pulley. Very simple system, nothing intricate about this at all. Perhaps a little fiddly. Okay, one power steering belt, and I think if I do that, I think that was ready to be changed, don't you? It's all split on the V's. Yeah, I think that's a good decision to get that changed. That's for the bin, that one. Absolutely wrecked. Right, so we've got the belt off. We spin the idler. No bearing noise whatsoever, so the bearing's good condition, so we don't need to change the idler, which is a relief because we haven't got one. So next thing is the alternator. With the power steering belt off, we can now take the alternator belt off. Again, it's only on 3 pulleys. It's driving off the front crank pulley down there at the bottom. The alternator pulley is that one at the front of the alternator, and then you've got the water pump just here. So fairly simple, nothing too intricate, pretty standard. Just here we've got slider adjustment, so we need to loosen that bolt there. We need to loosen that bolt on there to allow the adjuster bar to pivot. And then right at the bottom, right down there on the bottom of the alternator, we've got the pivot bolt, which is an 8mm socket hexagon head, and we've got an 8mm socket or Allen ratchet in the head there with a 3/8 drive ratchet. It's very fiddly to get it in, and so we're going to leave it in there until we've done the job. And it was also very tight to undo because it's probably not been off for quite a while. So yeah, we'll leave that in there. We'll just loosen that off, pivot the alternator up out the way, and then the belt will come free. Right, do your stuff. That's tight as well. Everything seems to be tight on this car. Right, that's that one done. Right, they're both loose. Now just going to get underneath and just loosen the bottom one off. Is it enough? And now the belt can come off.
I didn't get told it was going to go around the fan.
And it's got to go around the fan.
That's got a big problem.
No, that'll go.
There's a ratchet in the way.
Ah, you need to take the ratchet out then instead.
Oh wait, no.
Oh, we've done it. Lovely. So the alternator belt is nowhere near in bad condition as the power steering belt, so I suspect, for whatever reason, the alternator belt's been changed before and the power steering belt hasn't, which is a bit strange because the power steering belt is in front of the alternator belt, so you can't change the alternator without power steering, so without taking it off, so you may as well change them both while you're there. Anyway, that's going to go in the bin as well. So the alternator belt we've got is a Continental, and it's 4PK 836, which is the length, I think. 836 is 836mm long. The one that came off was 833, so this one's 3mm longer. I think that's how it works, but don't quote me on that. And for the power steering, we've got 4PK 850, and that's the same one that's come off. And the 4PK part means that there are 4 ribs in the multi-V belt. So if I just pull that back, you can see that there's 4 ribs on the multi-belt. Okay, and that's what 4PK means. And 836 and 850 are the length. Continental, so they make good tyres, so presumably they make good rubber belts as well. And as Isaac is finding out right now, it's probably fiddly getting it back together. That alternator right up.
That's right up on the engine like that.
Okay. Is it anywhere near?
Yeah, it'll go on, but
Okay.
it's just really tight.
Okay.
God, jeez. I haven't damaged the belt at all.
No,
So
no.
they're brilliant.
So that belt is pretty short, even though the number's bigger, 836, and the old one was 833, which is a bit strange. But anyway, it's on, and we've got a bit of adjustment, and that's all that matters. So it's not so tight we can't adjust it. Yeah, so that's the alternator belt on, and we've got it tight. There is no setting in the book for the deflection of the belt on the alternator, but on the power steering, the deflection of the belt is 1/4 of an inch to 1/3 of an inch deflection for the tension. So it's interesting and curious that they don't give you a deflection on the alternator, given that the fact that if you do the alternator one too tight, you'll pull the water pump bearings apart. But it will stretch, of course, so over time. So we'll check that when we start using the car in a few days, or after it's been used for a few days, I should say. We'll check that to see what how slack it's become, and then tighten accordingly. So while I tighten up the pivot point at the bottom of the alternator, Isaac's going to put on the power steering belt. It goes around the front.
Goes like that, doesn't it?
You can feed it down to me if you want.
Goes like that.
It does, yeah. I'll hold it on if you need me to.
Yeah. That one?
Under the eye. Crikey, that's tight. See? He's just getting it over those flanges.
Yeah.
They're really high flanges on the pulleys, on the outside edges. Just got to tension the belt with the Allen key, wherever that is. I'll do it. Well, it says 1/4 of an inch to 1/3 of an inch deflection, and that'll be on the longest edge. But it's a bit of a feel it and try it job.
About that much?
I can tell you that it's got to be tight. I mean, you run it for a few days and then we'll try it, because it will stretch. Right, that's the new power steering belt on, and that's the new alternator belt fitted. Quite tight to get on. The flanges have got quite high sides, so getting them over the edges of the flanges is quite difficult. The alternator belt was a different number, but I believe it's a longer than the original one, so even that was difficult to get on, and there's quite a lot of adjustment left down on that part there. That is on the lower end of the adjusting slider, but there is adjustment there, so we're okay with that. That's fine, and we'll check it out in a few days when we've run the engine for a while. Might even slacken off in the first 20 minutes. We'll see how we go. So next thing is put the oil back in it, and oil filter, which is somewhere down there.
Empty.
It will be. It's a side filter. So there's the old one. That's been on there a while. So yeah, we'll get the other one out of its packet. There we go. Last little bit on there. Righto, and then stick that on the thread. Don't cross thread it, whatever you do. That's it. Beautiful. Right, now we've got to put some oil in it.
Put the drain plug in first.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. Before you put the oil in the engine, make sure you put the drain plug back.
Got a new crush washer.
We can find one. Here we have a box of copper washers, hopefully the right size. There's a number of different ones. So a nice little old trick. If you haven't got any copper washers that fit, that glow lamp on the one you've got, heat it till it's sort of cherry red, that anneals the copper, softens it off, and it becomes usable again. There you go. We'll just let it cool. Oops. Yep. Rule number 1, don't burn your dead cat on your microphone with the blow lamp. Find a funnel. So the oil we're using is 530 or 5W30 synthetic to the C3 spec, which is in the book of the vehicle, and according to the specifications in the owner's manual, it takes 4 litres in this engine, so it's a little diddy engine really, so just under a gallon. That includes the oil filter, but the oil filter is horizontal anyway, so every time the engine stops the oil filter will probably drain most of it back into the engine. So I just put the cap back on, give it a run, check our belts, make sure they don't come spinning off. Shouldn't do. Take that.
Do a spark plug in.
And then we'll do the spark plug. Right, we'll let that just settle oil a minute, and then we'll check the level again shortly, and then it spark plugs. While we're doing that, actually, what we will do is, the air filter is a simple 4 clips airbox. That's the clean side, and that's the very, very dirty side. So let's stick a new one of them in. So filter number Crossland A20796, comparable with Suzuki part number 173808-1A00, and its cross reference is exactly the same sizes against the old one. So literally pop it in the box. The box has already been cleaned out because I had it off the other day when I was doing the inner wings, so it's all been cleaned out of muck and dirt. And then back on with the airbox top and 4 spring clips, as simple as that. Lovely. Right, let's check the oil. Yep, gone down quite a lot.
Yeah.
So
put the last half a
so what's the level marks? Are they two holes, is there?
2 holes. Yeah.
So the level marks have got 2 holes. So bottom hole, or the one at the top in the picture, is your low level, and the one at the bottom in the picture is your high level, because the dipstick's upside down right now. So I'm just going to stick a bit more oil in. That's the final ½ litre, I guess, is it?
Yep.
Not far out. Yep, lovely. Good. Oil change done. Cap on. Beautiful. Right, next thing is spark plugs, and I've made a rookie error because I didn't look in the book and thought that the fuel injectors were spark plugs. And I'm being the dutiful father. I'm not blaming my son for my mistakes. It was actually Isaac that suggested I look in the book before I go taking things off. So all credit to him. I thought I knew best and I was wrong. So the spark plugs are in the rocker cover, and you've got a plastic cover on top of the rocker box. It says DHC 16 valve, double overhead cam 16 valve, and hopefully underneath there we should see some nice clean and tidy coil packs, and there's a rubber gasket. Hopefully that's not broken, is it? No. And there's the coil packs for the spark plugs. Rub all the cobwebs out. That's good of them, wasn't it? Lovely spiders, because that is open to the elements at the back of the engine by the look of it. Yeah. So, there we go. Let's get the plugs out.
They just pull off the top, I think.
They'll just pull off, yeah, but there should be 4.
They might be under there.
I think you might be right.
Because there's 2 that go from one that goes out here like this, and
yeah.
Like that.
So it looks like 1 and 4 are connected, and 2 and 3.
There's one. One of them anyway.
That's one of them.
Not number 1 necessarily.
They're pretty deep down inside the head, so hopefully we're going to have the right tool to get on them.
Is that oil?
No, it's just a bit of Vaseline or something, isn't it?
Seal or something like that.
Okay, so disconnect the multi-plug. 10mm. Spark plug gap is 40 thou minimum. That's 20 plus. Yeah, plus 25 plus 15. Mind your head. Go steady. Tight. Just be careful they don't go too tight, otherwise if you... What's it feel like?
Tight.
Aluminium head. They haven't been off for a while, could be a problem.
Slip on the other ones.
Epoxy aluminium engines.
Got any copper slip grease?
Yeah, I've got some spray.
Put that on the new stuff. The new ones.
Yeah. So there's the old spark plug, and the threads have got a lot of crap and dirt in the threads, so they were a bit, not tight, but they were a bit stiff coming out. That one's gone way better than the one coming out. That one's gone in way better than the one coming out.
We put grease on it.
Yeah, put some copper slip on it.
Not too tight.
No. That gap looks like it's more than 40 thou as well.
There we go.
Right. Couple of other things to check. Power steering, 2 levels, lower and upper. We're bang on the upper, so that's all good. The expansion tank just there with the green cap, that's got clean antifreeze in it. There is also a full, and it's just slightly over the full mark. So if I can just bring it round. So there's the full mark there, and we're up here somewhere. Not too worried about that, that's the whole point of an expansion tank. And finally, over the far side, we've got the brake master cylinder, and that needs a little bit of fluid in it. If I can bring it round, see a little bit better. So yeah, so on the brake master cylinder we've got 2 lines. It's about halfway between top and bottom, as in full and low. So we'll put a bit of brake fluid in there, and that's pretty much done. Washer bottle is half full, so that's good. Battery's brand new, so that's all good and topped up. Actually, that's maintenance free, so you can't do anything with that. So yeah, happy. Engine done. Okay, so we are on the final leg, which is gearbox drainage, and according to the book, this is a gearbox for a diesel engine car, because on the picture in the book, the drain hole is on the bottom of the gearbox case, whereas on a petrol engine car, the gearbox drain hole is on the back of the case. So this doesn't correspond to the book, because this is a petrol car showing a diesel, which according to the book has got a diesel gearbox on it, manual gearbox by the way. Be that as it may, that is the drain, and then the filler is up here somewhere, just there. That's your filler and level plug, and it's just a simple case of undoing the drain, letting it drain out. It's warm already, so that's going to flow quite nicely, and then we'll take the filler plug off and drain plug back in, and then we'll fill the plug. It's as simple as that. It's just what stripped out the gearbox after I wiped it. So, filler plug up on the side and right hand side of the gearbox up here where my finger is, and it's about 1.1 litres of GL4 75, 90 or 80 W90 gear oil, something like that for the transmission. Similar for the transfer box, 0.8 litres, and filled it with our trusty oil syringe, because that's the only thing you're going to get up there, because you can't get a bottle in there, can't tip it upside down to get the bottle up. So you either need a pump or a syringe, and that's what we used. And you wait until it's running out of that level plug and you know it's at the right level. It's as simple as that. You can also use the gauge on the side of the can so you know how much you put in, of course. So we do the transfer box, and that's pretty much it. So I've just taken the transfer box drain plug out, and the oil coming out of it was black. So that hasn't been done for a very long time, if ever perhaps, because these things do get overlooked over time. So that may be 20-year-old oil. It doesn't smell very nice either. But the gearbox oil was a nice clear colour, as if it was quite new. This is definitely brown, dark brown, bordering on black. Indicates it's very old oil. So we'll do the same again. That's where my level plug is, so I'll undo that so I can put some oil in. Wait for it to run out again, the same as the gearbox one, exactly the same thing. So yeah, that's a good job done, that one, because that's obviously not been done for a long time. Well, that is the Jimny project completed, and we've serviced the car, we've changed all the fluids, gearbox oils, transfer box oils, differential oils, the engine oil, check the power steering fluid, check the brake fluid, check the antifreeze, water coolant, etc. Change the plugs, change the filters, and she's good. We've also checked the brakes after the MOT, because there were some advisories on the brakes, and we've made some adjustments, and we're going to let it all bed in and then check it again once we've started using it. Also, the belts will need adjusting as well when it's had a few days use, because they will certainly stretch. MOT completed, as you've seen. Loads of welding. I've estimated approximately 100 hours in time. Whether that is the case, I'm not really sure, because I haven't made any record of the time I've made. I can sort of put a finger in the air and look back in the days I've been working on it. So 100 hours, yeah, maybe more, maybe less. I think if it went to a body shop, I think they could probably do this in 2 weeks, because they would be dedicated to it, 8 till 5, etc., etc. So I think a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks work perhaps. So yeah, quite a lot of work in the welding side of things. Obviously it took me longer because I was learning as I was going along with welding and making parts and such like. So yeah, it is what it is on that side of things. I'll never get my money back on that one in time, that's for sure. But certainly for the labour, I'm going to do a restoration costs for the parts that I've put on this, from purchase price right through to getting it serviced. we had a new tyre on it, we put a new battery on it, etc, etc. So this has turned from a rust box to a fun box, which was the whole point of the job, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And to get you on the road. So the last thing we need to do, bar's open by the way, last thing we need to do is a ceremonial handing over of the key.
Thank you.
You now have a Suzuki Jimny. But when we come to sell it, I'm having the money back.
Yeah.
So, cheers, and thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like to follow our mechanical adventures, if you enjoy what we do. This is Jimny Completed signing out. Cheers. Good health.